sensational. I actually loved it. I really couldn't wait for you to come in and talk to you about it. How did you prepare for the role, though?
I had about a year and a half before we started shooting. And so I spent that time, it feels like climbing Mount Everest. It's just so mammoth of a task. So for me, I just had to take it one step at a time, and it started with absorbing everything. I watched every bit of footage that's out there. I listened to every interview of his throughout his entire career, and read every book that was written on his life, and
Wow.
and then I started to break it up into pieces. So it was figuring out how his voice changed over the years, and obsessing about that. It became this 2-year obsession where I put the rest of my life on pause, and I went through every bit of his being like that, you know, from his spiritual evolution to the way that he moved and how that changed over the years. And every day I thought, okay, well, either it's going to go this way and I'm going to get the part, and then I got a lot of work to do, or I'm not going to get it and I got to rest in the fact that I got 5 months with one of my favorite filmmakers to get to explore. Eventually, so I accepted both those options, and then I got the call from Baz, and it was excitement and exhilaration followed immediately by, I got to get to work.
Time to turn up, yeah.
This is the responsibility is such a weight that for 2 years I woke up every day around 3 or 4 in the morning with my heart pounding, and I couldn't go back to sleep, and I just got to work at that time.
Oh, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely nailed it.
And what was it like when you finally got on set? So that clip that we've just seen there, when you're on stage and literally the kids in the audience go from just watching and wondering who you are to literally girls are throwing themselves at you. And that one girl that we see, she kind of sums it up perfectly, the effect that he had on audiences, women and men. But what was it like for you getting on stage and performing in front of that many people? I know you're an actor and you've done theatre, but being a musician and a singer and someone that plays guitar and dances like that.
Yeah, I was really nervous for those performances because it's something I'd never done before. And I spoke to Rami Malek beforehand, and he told me, he said, you know, I believe those days will probably be the most fun days you have. And it turned out to be exactly that. The first performance we filmed was 68 Special. And so I'm walking out in the black leather, and I was so nervous beforehand. Because you do a year and a half of dedicating every day to this, and suddenly here's the moment of truth where I got to walk out there in front of everybody, and it felt like my career was on the line, like this job, like everything. It felt like everything was on the line in this moment. And I had this moment alone before I walked out there, and I really just rested in the fact that it was a make-or-break moment in Elvis's life. This special was, his career was on the line. And so it wasn't a bad thing. I was experiencing that fear, and I knew that he was feeling the same thing. So then I could just take that energy and go out there and do what he did, which was build a rapport with the audience and affect. And when you see one of the audience members start to blush, and you see another girl smile and get giddy, and that experience is unlike anything I'd ever felt before, and it was really an out-of-body experience that day, and from that moment, then I knew, okay, these performances are going to be okay.
Yeah, incredible.
Tom, what drew you to this film? Because in my head, you get offered every movie role ever written, so you could kind of take anything. Why this one for you?
I had never seen a photograph of Colonel Tom Parker. I did not know what he sounded like. All I knew was some version of he was some sort of diabolical genius that both manufactured Elvis Presley and made him one of the most important cultural icons in the history of America. And I said, you're talking about Falstaff here. You're talking about Falstaff with Prince Hal. This rogue, this cheat, this liar, but who everybody loved, that at the end of the day, at the end of the story, is left on the lurch and not being able to enjoy the part of it. And the moment I saw a photograph that Baz has, you know, oceans of materials when he comes to see you, I just flipped through this book of this man I had never seen before. This pudgy, out of shape, fat, balding man who turned out to be not even an American, certainly not a colonel. His first name is not Tom. He's not even a Parker. His name is Andreas van Kuck, and he's from Holland. No one knew any of this stuff. So here it was. I'm going to get to play essentially I'm going to be in a movie called Ben-Hur, starring Ben-Hur, you know. I don't know how else to talk about Elvis. I don't want to talk about the son of... It's like he's playing Jesus in a movie that's called The Book of Matthew, for crying out loud, or, you know, Jesus of Nazareth in a movie called Jesus of Nazareth. And yet I will then get to be this catalyst in the portrait, and also have the demands of a huge amount of character applied onto me. So it was a bit of a banquet, of a feast for me.
So the opposite, right, kind of, because you had an abundance of information and very little...
Well, there's an awful lot of anecdotal information. One, I read a fabulous book that got down as deeply as possible. And one of the things that I found is that, just like in that scene we just saw, the Colonel did not care about this music. He doesn't even care about this oddly dressed man. The first time he saw Elvis and decided, I want to represent that guy, the Colonel was watching the audience, not just the girls, the girl's mother.
The reactions.
And he said, I have not seen that since I was in the carnival promising, you know, forbidden fruit. Then my wife knows Priscilla from some women's cancers funds that they've done together. And Priscilla and Jerry Schilling, who is in the movie, one of the original Memphis Mafia, came by the house. And I was anticipating hearing horror stories about the Colonel, and I heard just the opposite. Jerry and Priscilla loved the Colonel. He said he was a wonderful man. He brightened up every room that he came into. Was he fishy with some of the money? Yeah, and we had to go, and we had to sue him, and he gave it up, and we got it. But it turned from a guy who was this Machiavellian sort of puppet master to instead a fellow who said, well, of course, if you want to do it, my boy, we'll take care of it. Or we could do this other thing that might work out. And guess what Elvis always ended up doing, this other thing that might work out. So I had a treasure trove of anecdotal information that I use continuously.
Different class.